Hello and welcome to the first annual Gamers Tavern Awards. This week, Ross and I are honoring what we feel are the best games that came out in the year 2013. And I have no earthly idea why I actually wore a tie when we recorded this, even though I knew it's audio only. But I'm weird. Anyway, I really don't have a lot to say about this week's episode, so I just kind of want to jump into things. Let's just get the sponsor out of the way and get started.
Have you been looking for a dark fantasy RPG setting? Are you interested in seeing a new take on the action horror genre? Then you should check out Accursed. Accursed is a setting for the Savage Worlds RPG created by me, Ross Watson, and my good friends Jason Marker and John Dunn. It is a world where the heroes are monsters who fight for redemption against the witches who have conquered their land. To find out more about Accursed, search for Accursed on drivethrurpg.com. Accursed is now on sale there and in many other fine retailers for gaming PDFs. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy Accursed. Hello and welcome to episode 17 of the Gamers Tavern podcast. I'm your host, Ross Watson.
And I'm your engineer, Darryl Mott Jr.
And tonight we are basically going to just be Darryl and I because we have a really interesting topic tonight. We're going to be talking about game awards, and specifically we're going to both talk about the games of 2013, the game products of last year. And we're gonna talk about the best of the best entries that we have selected for a number of different categories. Darryl, why don't you help me kind of explain how this works?
Basically, this is and I am going to annoy so many grammar Nazis out there, our first annual Gamers Tavern Awards. We have gone through 2013 and picked what we feel are the best games in a variety of categories. Now, the way we determined which games we picked were, what did we like? There wasn't any sort of strict standard. This is not any sort of subjective thing, because most award shows, the more they pretend to be objective, the more subjective they tend to be behind the scenes.
That being said, we are using our own personal views and our own personal experiences to make these selections. Darryl and I did work hard to try and pick what we felt were the most deserving games in each category. There is something that I need to say up front, though. As a professional game designer and writer in the industry, I end up with my name in quite a few products every year. And before we even got started on this path, I told Darryl that I was just going to have to kind of recuse myself from some products, because anything that I worked on obviously has to be something that I can't nominate for an award. That just wouldn't be right. So there's going to be some categories where I will just go ahead and tell you, like, I couldn't nominate anything because, or I couldn't nominate a game because. And Darryl has been very kind enough, to help me out here. He does, like I said, we each picked our own, so I didn't tell Darryl what to pick. Darryl didn't tell me what to pick. So that's what's going to go on ahead. I just wanted to make sure we got that out up front.
Yep. And the criteria for getting nominated for the Gamers Tavern Award was, did your game come out sometime between January 1st, 2013 and December 31st, 2013? And did we play it? Or at least see it get played or have some interaction with the game in some way, shape, or form.
I mean, yeah, that's true. And it should be also noted that, there were a lot of game products that came out this year, and Darryl and I can only look at so many. So if you hear a product or if you hear a category and your favorite product that you feel is really deserving does not get mentioned, please, by all means, send us an email or make a comment on our Facebook or on the blog, and absolutely let us know what you think should have been in there, because we'd like to hear from you.
As always. And, of course, I do want to point out one other thing. Some of the games which I put on here, I did get review copies of through my column at Anicool News. That in no way, shape, or form influenced me, other than the fact that I got to play the games. Many of the games on here I actually bought myself. So,
there's something else I should tell the listeners, Darryl. Mm-hmm. I am now on a new microphone.
Oh yeah, We're in the process of upgrading our studio here, and my cat right now is very fascinated with the mixer board. Yeah, we've upgraded to pretty much a full studio at this point. So it's a portable, low end, but I really like it. I really like the sound control that I have now. And I also, as great as Ross has sounded ever since we started the podcast, I just thought to myself, how much better would he sound if he had a proper microphone? So we've now gotten Ross on a proper microphone, and we've got a full sound system here now. So,
and I am very grateful to Darryl for helping me set up on this awesome microphone. So my dulcet tones and honeyed voice can sound that much smoother to you, the listener. Okay, I promise not to do that. But yeah, that's my radio voice. So anyway, we should. Do we want to talk about awards in general before we jump right into the list, Darryl?
Well, first, of course, we might want to talk about what games we've been playing recently, like we always do.
Well, yeah. Okay, there's no excuse to get sloppy when we don't have a guest. It's just the two of us tonight. So,
I know.
It feels a little more casual, but we owe it to our listeners to do the best show we can. He's right,
and mostly because that conversation we were having before, where it's like, oh, we need to save this for the air. We kind of need to. I really want to talk about, and I want you to tell the audience about your Shadowrun character.
Oh God. Okay. Well, what have we been playing lately? I have not been playing Shadowrun other than Shadowrun Returns. I played a little bit of that because the expansion for that is coming out very soon. But I
didn't get to finish it yet. I got caught by the bug where you get stuck in that one room right before the end. So
I haven't run into that. So well,
yeah, they patched it since then. I just haven't had a chance to update it and finish playing it.
Okay, so just in case you didn't know, there's a big expansion for Shadowrun Returns coming out sometime this month. To get ready for that, I was playing some Shadowrun Returns, and that got me in the mood for Shadowrun, the role-playing game, and I got together with some friends of mine, and we started talking about old characters, and, I got inspired. I made a Shadowrun character, and suffice it to say, it's a pretty pink mohawk idea. I wanted to play a pixie because I enjoy playing pixies. First of all, they're cool because they're only 18 inches tall, and they kind of allow you to explore some little more quirky character ideas. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if you had basically a really stereotypical Shadowrunner, because pixies do kind of look like elves with wings and all. And you gave them the sunglasses and the trench coat and the katana, which is obviously just a knife with metahuman customization. And and then I said, well, if you're gonna make him look like a stereotypical Shadowrunner, you should probably talk like a stereotypical Shadowrunner. And from there, I started building this concept of a character whose exposure to Shadowrunner culture and exposure to what Shadowrun is entirely through things like The Matrix and
Carl Combat Mage and
yeah, like television, basically Tritio is what they call it. But yeah, basically TV and the internet is where he learned everything he needs to know about Shadowrun. So he comes off as the most stereotypical Shadowrunner ever, which means, of course, he writes his own Shadowrun fanfiction. And of course he has his own Shadowrun mixtape playlist on his comlink. And, of course...
Hold on. What's his name?
Yeah, and he's decided that his name is Ravenblood Black Wolf Deathblade. You can call him Rafe for short. I don't know. It's like I said, it's pretty wacky. It's pretty pink mohawk, but I actually think there's a really cool character here, and I'm really excited about getting a chance to play him.
And from my previous conversations about Shadowrun and Pink Mohawk, I don't dislike Pink Mohawk, but I'm not that big of a fan of it. But I don't know if you can tell, but this idea is hilarious. I love it so much.
Well, I think and to be totally clear, it's going to have to fit the right tone of campaign. Like I would never try to force this on somebody if it didn't fit their tone.
And I also said I really kind of wish he was in my last campaign I ran because I ran the perfect odd couple counterpart to Ravenblood.
Rafe. Just call him Rafe. So yeah, when I told Darryl about this idea, he had a really great thought that immediately said, "Oh yes, awesome." What was that thought you had, Darryl? You said
you need a complete black trench coat, die-hard professional, raised in the shadows, has been in the shadows his entire life, true professional who doesn't put up with this sort of bullshit. You need that guy as a counterpoint.
As a counterpoint. You phrased it a little more like you phrase it a little more like it was a partner, right? And the first
Yeah.
thing that came to my mind was like a buddy cop film, right?
Buddy cop films, the
yeah,
odd couple, you've got to have the exact opposite, that somehow they get along,
yeah,
but
because
they're
you have
constantly at each other's throats bickering until, people start shooting at them, and then they got each other's back.
the key part is somehow they get along. Like I wouldn't want to bring this idea in where the two characters would be fighting all the time. I'd like to bring it in and see what those dynamics do together.
It's personality clashes, not anything. It's just the fun role playing moments, not the.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about getting someone you're going to draw down on each other at some point in time. That's never
well
fun.
because for me, like for me the ideal would be that if 2 or 3 sessions, or maybe I don't know, let's say several sessions down the road. Ideally for me is my character would start to learn to be more professional, to be, to actually pick up what's really on the streets. And your character would learn to loosen up a little bit.
Exactly.
I think that's the arc that I would enjoy the most out of that dynamic.
And you actually came up with the best analogy for it, which was the Dragnet movie, the comedy one from the 80s with Tom Hanks.
Yeah, the one with Dan
and,
Aykroyd and Tom Hanks. Yeah. That would be a great example of how to do it. And I mean, it would take a lot of a lot of things would need to come together. You'd have to have the right players, the right tone, the right GM. But anyway, I'm just so excited about this crazy character I came up with that I had to tell Darryl, and he's like, "Put it on the air; it'll be great."
Yeah.
So there it is. So that's what I've been playing lately. Is I've been coming up with an idea for a Shadowrun character. But in other news, Accursed is now out as a print product. I have my print copy.
Woohoo.
I'm going to be taking it with me to ChupacabraCon this weekend, showing it off. Couldn't be prouder. I think Accursed turned out to be fantastic, and we're just really excited to see it moving forward. We got novellas on sale now. Richard Lee Byers wrote a novella for us. He's a celebrated Forgotten Realms author, and he wrote the trilogy of Scarred Lands novels for the Scarred Lands, so you might know him from there. And now he's writing stories about my universe, which is pretty freaking amazing. So check that out. You can just find all that if you go to DriveThruRPG and search for Accursed. It'll show you all the Accursed stuff that's up there, including the novella. And we hope to have another one up really soon. So, keep an eye out for that. And that's what I've been playing lately. I don't want to get too far down that road because we could spend the whole night talking about characters.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to turn it over to Darryl.
I have been actually making headway in that big Tipple of Elemental Evil game I've been talking about. However, because I just finished a couple weeks ago editing our Edition Wars episodes that we did, I've been kind of thinking, I'm like, maybe I don't want to go through the effort of, because I've converted the first part of the module, do I really want to go through all that work for the rest of it? So I'm sitting here thinking, how hard is it to play in 2nd edition, which all the players that I have in my game, they know 2nd edition because that's their first system. Can I just run that straight? So I've been doing a lot of research on that, and I'm actually making headway on that, and we're starting up next week. So I'm going to find out how that's going to work.
I wish you luck with that. I kind of wish I could play in it. It sounds like it'd be fun.
Yeah, it's and I've got my players are of course playing the evil party, but it's the Tipple of Elemental Evil, so I can kind of let it slide.
Well, then you feel fine when you kill them, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I feel like I feel a
little bit better if I kill them, and B, they're probably not going to spend a lot of time in Hamlet. They're probably going to be spending all their time in Nulb. So
I think it's fair to say that at some point on this show we will have an episode about evil parties.
Yes.
So we will come back and revisit that then for sure.
Yeah. And I've been kind of cataloging my board game because they've gotten into, between all the games I got during Christmas, either I bought myself for sale or presents from family members who basically just went on my Amazon wish list and realized that, oh, hey, there's all these board games. I might want to get them one of those. I've got so much crap around my room. I've been trying to catalog them all and organize them and stack them and figure out exactly what all I've got at this point. So that's the other thing I've been doing. So I haven't.
Oh, we should definitely tell the listeners. Remember when we had Nordling on to talk about gaming and film?
Yes.
Well, remember Nordling was telling us about this new movie.
Well, we're going to be getting to that later on.
Okay. That's probably something we should then wait and do during the actual awards show. Just a little teaser for the fans there. So stay tuned.
So there are actually several callbacks on our lists, but this is a big one, and Ross and I were actually having a big conversation before we started recording about this, and I hope we can capture a lot of what we were talking about on it. But are you ready to go ahead and get started with our first category?
Yeah, I am. I just want to say again, I'm really super excited to be recognizing games for quality because as a game designer, writer, I know what it's like to, put your work out there in the world. And honestly, the pay isn't that great. I mean, let's just be clear. So recognition is like kind of a big thing, especially in our industry. And I want to say that I'm just super excited to be part of something where I feel like we can, even in our own minor way, because we're just a little podcast. We're not some monolithic agency where every gamer is going to hear our voice, but we are doing our small part to recognize the products that are above the bar. They're setting the bar. They are the standard in our industry, and it's just very cool for me to participate in that.
Yeah, it's always I when it comes to a lot of other mediums, I really just don't care about awards because this is pretty much the award season for the entertainment industry, and I do write for Anical News, but I really don't care about the Oscars, the Golden Globes, any of that stuff, because if a product I like wins, I'm like, yay, it deserved to win. If a product I liked doesn't win, I just get pissed off. And so I don't see why. And it's not, in a lot of those awards, it's not really that big of an honor in the movie industry because there's a lot of lobbying that goes on in those. And that's not a secret or anything like that. That's just the nature of the business. There's a reason why all the tearjerker movies come out in November and December. It's because it's closer to award season, so it's fresher in the minds of the critics or the Academy who's voting on these awards. That's just how the business goes. But on the flip side of that, I love gaming awards because it is an industry that gets so much crap from the outside world. I just remember we're recording this January 14th, I believe, and just yesterday it was announced that Fox, the movie studio, 20th Century Fox, has gotten the rights to make a Magic the Gathering movie. And even on our own website, on Anical News, it's nothing but neckbeard fat virgin jokes about Magic the Gathering players. And that just really annoys me, because do you guys even play games? Do you know any gamers?
Well, I think
maybe I'm a little bit like that, but most gamers aren't.
If I understand what you're saying correctly, I think what you're saying is the Magic players are part of our tribe.
Exactly.
I mean, they are. I may not be a Magic player. You may not be a Magic player. I'm honestly not much of a card gamer at all.
I am 14 years clean.
But the fact remains that these are still our people.
Yes.
Right? And it's kind of, we don't like to see that tribe being put down. So, I'm with you on that. That it's cool that, we're taking this opportunity to sort of address that a little bit.
And people who malign those groups, it annoys me because my board game group actually came from co-opting a Magic the Gathering game at a coffee shop. A friend of mine had gotten back into Magic after many years of not playing. I personally am 13 years clean of Magic the Gathering. I've had a couple of relapses here and there, but
not that there's anything wrong with playing Magic. We think that playing Magic is just fine.
It is addicting though, but so is most gaming. I am still an addict to Shadowrun.
Right, but just to be clear, there's nothing wrong with playing Magic, and we think that it's a fine game.
Yes, I just, the reason why I don't really like playing Magic anymore is because I'm not good at it, really. If I were better at it, I would probably like it more because it is a fun, engaging game. I could go on for a while about Magic the Gathering, but my board game group that I played with for the longest time, that I was slowly working them into playing D&D, we actually were using Hero Quest, the old Milton Bradley game, as it kind of a vector to get them into role-playing games, and it was working until my job schedule changed and I had to leave the group. But we basically took these guys that were just hardcore Magic the Gathering players and slowly started introducing them to, Settlers of Catan and Cards Against Humanity and Ticket to Ride, and we started getting deeper and deeper into these games till they were playing games that I don't even get, like Castles of Burgundy. I can't even play that game. So,
well, that's a great segue, though, to talk about our first category, and I'm going to try and say it as if we had a soundboard where they could do the cool reverb and everything.
We do. I just haven't figured it out yet.
Okay, well, I'm going to give it a try, and if you can make it sound cool in post, that's awesome. But
yes.
the 2014 Gamers Tavern Award, Best Board Game. And in this category, I did have to abstain, so it is pretty much all Darryl all the time on this one.
Yeah.
But I do happen to agree with his selection, so I'm going to let Darryl go ahead and talk about our selection and why we picked it.
My selection for best board game, and I rolled board game into considering pretty much anything that's played on a tabletop that doesn't involve actual role-playing. Although I kind of cut close to the line on that one because I picked the Pathfinder Adventure card game. And the reason why I picked that is because although the mechanics are a little bit fuzzy around the edge, it seems a little bit more complicated than it needs to be in some places. It is a great game. It is a perfect vector. And if this had come out when I was still with that group, this would have been the game I used to draw them into role-playing. Say, play this, and then, hey guys, do you want to try the game this was based on? You make your own characters and you get to fight and kill stuff. It really kind of, if you're in one of those situations where you don't have a DM or you don't have a group around you, it does have a good solo mode. It does have a good two-player. It's a cooperative game, so you're all on the same side. It kind of scratches that same itch in a way if you can't do any sort of... It feels like, when you're playing the game, it kind of feels like you're going through a dungeon crawl almost. Or you can actually turn this into a full adventure. If you wanted to, you could write up the stories in this the same way you could write up your D&D campaign or your Pathfinder campaign. There's also a ton of variety in this, and that's not even counting all the expansions that have been coming out regularly already for the game. It is a brilliant game. It is worth every penny. I cannot recommend it. It is my favorite board game of this year.
And I just want to point out that a friend of mine, Mike Selinker, is one of the designers on this. So good job, Mike. And it definitely is. The boxes are very, very pretty. I love the production value game. This is coming from someone who hasn't played it as much. This is, again, Darryl's selection. Not really.
Yeah.
I had to kind of step away from this category, but I can clearly see that it is a quality product, even just from a casual look.
Yep, so our best board game for 2013, Pathfinder Adventure card game. So I'm going to go ahead and move on and introduce our next category, which is a little bit more vague. We didn't specify a specific genre for this one.
Well, and I think, this might be a good time to bring up that if people have some ideas on how we can improve this, we are definitely interested in hearing it.
Yeah, this is our first annual.
Yeah,
I'm doing that intentionally, kind of like nails on a chalkboard.
Well, yeah. I mean, at first, my first thought was we're going to do it like the Penny Arcade We're Right Awards.
Yeah.
We are. We're right. But that's a little too snarky for our podcast. The thing is, we want to do this again in the future. So if you have any comments on the not only the awardees, but also things like how the categories are defined, we'd love to hear it. That's all I want.
I actually like the way this category turned out as vague as it was, because you went in a completely different direction than I did, and that kind of thing kind of works out. But this one is Best Game Expansion.
Dun, dun, dun.
So Ross's pick for
Yes,
2013 Gamers Tavern Award Best Game Expansion is
Champions Complete by Derek Heimforth. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Champions Complete is if people who don't know what it is, it's one of the newest releases for the Hero System 6th edition. And the thing about Hero System 6th edition, it's a really big, almost intimidating.
phone book.
It's multiple phone books. I mean, it's not just one, right? Their set is like 3 books big, and they're just really big and intimidating books, which is a shame because it's a fantastic system. It's one of my favorite game systems of all time is the Hero System. So Champions Complete takes those 3 big phone books and condenses them down into one, average size game book, which I think is great because what it does is it takes my favorite game, puts it in a more digestible version as an expansion, and it allows it to work as a gateway into the Hero System. There's actually not that much new in it from a rule standpoint. It's kind of going back over material that's already in the 6th edition rule set, but it's presenting it and organizing it in a way that it'll allow new readers or people who just want to focus on the particular genre that this book is aiming for, which is superheroes. It will give them that experience. And it does have a lot of great stuff in there about how to run superhero campaigns and basically just, again, how to use the hero system to do what it does best, in my opinion, which is the Champions game. And yeah, great job, Derek Heimforth. Great job, everybody at Hero Games. I think it was a fantastic book.
And this is not in any way, shape, or form a beginner's box thing. This is more like a digest form of the full book. The full rules for that. It's
honestly, it's the closest thing you're going to get to the beginner's box for
what
the hero
I mean
system.
is this is not a okay. Here's the first 5 levels of playing the game. Now go play the real game. This is a full game in and of itself, but it's also still a subset of the same bigger game. Is that
yes? I that's a good point. Yeah, what Darryl's doing is he's clarifying that while I characterized it as an introductory product, it is complete. I mean, as it says on the cover, it is a complete set.
And
right?
Yeah, it is a complete game. And that's the main thing I wanted to get across is this is not like, here's the rules, like here's the first 3 levels. This is your quick start for the game with your pre-gens and everything. This is a full role-playing game that is... I have always wanted to get into hero systems, if for no other reason than it is one of the most reskinnable role-playing games ever. Aside from a system that's actually designed to be generic like GURPS. It is one of these, you can run pretty much anything you can think. It's built for superheroes, but you can run anything you want with that system.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to actually getting a chance to run Champions for Darryl sometime, because I think he'd get a kick out of it.
I probably would. I have not had a chance to play it, and I have barely skimmed the surface because I have not had a chance to look at Champions Complete. But yeah, it is a really good product from everything I've heard about it, and I'm really excited to finally get a look at it and finally get a chance to really get into Hero System, because I am one of those people that I looked at in, I think it was 4th edition was the last one I looked at, where it had the 2 600-page hardcover tomes.
That's, was it black colored?
I know it was,
that would
so
be
maybe,
5th edition.
It may have been 5th edition. It was 2 different colors. One was blue, I want to say, and one was...
Well, 4th edition was blue, 5th was black. You know what?
Okay,
my blog actually goes into great detail about all the different editions of Champions.
I remember. I was at Dragon's Lair looking at them, and they were blue.
Okay, well, so that's 6th edition.
That's 6th?
6 is multiple books, and they are blue. Okay. Yeah. So why don't we talk about your selection for this category?
Like I said, I went in a completely different direction than Ross when it comes to the 2013 Best Game Expansion from Darryl is Lords of Waterdeep, Scoundrels of Skullport, which Lords of Waterdeep is a great way if you're wanting to go the other way around. We talked about Pathfinder Adventure Card Game for the people to get your board game group into role-playing games. This is a great way to get your role-playing game group into board games. It's a worker placement style game, and it is really well designed. It is probably the best introductory worker placement game I've seen, but I haven't played a lot of them yet. But the rules are very simple, and Scoundrels of Skullport is the perfect board game expansion. It does everything you want an expansion to do. It is, for one thing, the set itself is very versatile. It has 2 different major components and a lot of other additional rules that you can mix and match when you're adding them in. So you don't add in the whole thing at one time unless you really want to. You can add in just one little component of the rules to your game at a time, and everything still stays balanced and fun. That's what makes it incredibly versatile. There's lots of different game components to choose from to put at it. For the benefits of this game, the price is incredibly low. I mean, when you're looking at modern board game prices and you're saying $30 for an expansion, which I'm not sure that's the exact price of Lords of Waterdeep, but we'll have links to all of our winners in our show notes if you want to go purchase them. But I'm not sure the exact price, but a lot of expansions in the $20 to $30 range, and it's like, that's not even the whole game. No, this one is worth every penny, because here's the big thing. It takes that game that you already bought and it breathes a whole new life into it. You can pick any one of the things. You can add in the Undermountain campaign, which gets you a lot more adventures, a lot more missions, and it adds so much to the game. You can add in the corruption rules, and just that alone adds so much depth and replayability. So even if you've played this game to death, it completely breathes new life and almost makes it a brand new game without overwhelming you with all these new rules. And you still feel like you're playing the same game, because I know a lot of board games, when you start piling on expansions, it doesn't even feel like the game that you played the first time you played it.
Well, I haven't played the expansion for Lords of Waterdeep, but I have played the core game, and I really, really, really liked Lords of Waterdeep. It's one of my favorite board games that I have played recently, and I was very much looking forward to the expansion. So I'm very pleased to hear Darryl say how much he likes it, because I can't wait to get my hands on a copy.
It's technically 3 expansions in one, because there's kind of 3 different. There's 2 big expansions and then a little mini thing that you can add in. It's 3 different miniature rule sets, and you don't have to add in all 3 at once. You can add in one part here. The biggest thing to me is it adds a completely new layer of strategy to the game. If you're one of those people who actually plans ahead and doesn't get, shit-faced and just make whatever moves look right at the time, like some people may do in strategy games. I don't know any of them personally, of course, except when I look in a mirror. But no, it does add a completely new strategy to the game with the corruption mechanic, because it gives you a way to take on this corruption that costs you points to get you instant gain, and then you're trying to get rid of the corruption and put it on other players. Or you may have the secret lord, that's the beholder, that actually gets points for being corrupt. So it just adds so much more to the game when you're trying to balance, okay, I can do this for 8 points, or I can do this for 15 points, but I'll have to take some corruption points, and I don't know how many victory points those are going to cost me until the end of the game, and it adds so much to the game. That alone would have won the award. But then there's the Undermountain expansion that adds so many new missions and so many new game types, so many new places. Yeah, I love this expansion. It does exactly what a board game expansion is going to do. It makes you want to pull that game out and play it again, and you're still playing the same game, but it feels fresh and new all over again.
Awesome. Well, I think then we need to move on to our next category. All right. And our next category is one near and dear to my heart. So, the 2013 Gamers Tavern Awards for Best Miniature Product. And why don't you go first on this one, Darryl?
Mine is a Kickstarter project that I know I've talked about this many times on the show. I'm not that big of a miniature gamer when it comes to actual miniature war games, but I love using miniatures in my role-playing games. So, of course, my pick was the Dwarven Forge game tiles. I got my set in recently. I still have not gotten up the nerve to start painting them, but even unpainted, these things look great. Dwarven Forge has always looked great. Every single time I see the pictures, I'm like, I want this so bad. When I win the lottery, I'm going to have a set of those. I don't have to win the lottery anymore to have that level of quality on my game table. It's really reasonably priced. The things are durable as hell. I have put them through the paces in an experiment for an upcoming review of them, where I have done what I can to try to break them or bend them or deform them, and I'm at the point where I'm about to start running them over with cars and taking blowtorches to them to try to do some sort of measurable damage.
Let's be clear, he does it because he really likes them. That's why he wants to destroy them.
I have to test them. I want to know how far I can push them. It's now become a science experiment. I have one specific piece I picked out of the set that I didn't think I was ever going to use. Exactly. Testing for science. I am being very methodical. I am charting my results. So it is officially science.
Why are we still talking when there's science to do?
Oh, God. That song is now stuck in my head for the rest of the friggin' show. Thank you very much.
Seriously, Dwarven Forge is a product that always makes me wish I had more money, because it looks so fantastic. And the times that I have used it or seen it used for fantasy gaming or things like Hero Quest, man, it is just so cool.
Have you seen the game tiles yet, though? The game tiles version, not the old cast versions?
Yeah, they look great. I need to break out some of my budget in this year sometime and make sure to acquire a copy.
Yeah, they are not that expensive, and they're durable. They're also really light compared to the old stone versions. I loved that about them, because you can actually take these to a con and not have to, throw your shoulder out putting them in a bag. So it's really great. I love them. So my pick, 2013 Best Miniature Product, Dwarven Forge game tiles. So, Ross, what was your pick?
Well, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Again, it's fine. It's really interesting again, because we always, when we come back and look at these lists, Darryl kind of goes off to the right. I always go off to the left. So Darryl picks for best miniature product. Darryl picks an actual miniature, thing that you put on the table, and I pick a set of rules. I picked the new BattleTech release. It is called BattleTech Alpha Strike, and it is actually a rule set for playing BattleTech in a completely different way. Now, I don't know how many of our listeners may have played BattleTech in the past. I played BattleTech, 20 years ago. I mean, I've been playing it since almost the first box set was released.
And BattleTech was my first tabletop game, which we talked about in episode 0.
Right. So BattleTech is important to both me and Darryl, but for different reasons. I always came at it from the miniature game side, and I remember playing tons of games of BattleTech. But let's just say that it's a 25-year-old rule set, and there's things that I find...
they're in their 4th edition now, but the rules really haven't changed that much since I was 10 years old.
Let's just say there are certain things in that rule set that I think modern design would do differently. And that's where Alpha Strike comes in, right? Alpha Strike comes in and says, this is a way to play BattleTech, have all the good parts of BattleTech, but do it in a way that really embraces some of the modern design. BattleTech Alpha Strike allows you to play games. You can play Lance on Lance, which Lance is like 4 mechs. You can play a Lance on Lance game in like 20 or 30 minutes with Alpha Strike. It is fast, furious, and fun. My friends and I, we sat down and we played 3-on-3, right? We each had a Lance of mechs. And we must have played like 5 or 6 games in 3 hours. And I'd never been able to really just get that much BattleTech all at once before. So I just really adore the way that Alpha Strike takes a classic game, puts a new spin on it, and it presents it in a way that allows you to play the game in a much more fast and furious fun approach. One even better than that actually is there's a list of all the battle mechs that they've been releasing for BattleTech in the new Alpha Strike format online. It's called the Master Unit List.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have a link to it in the show notes. So you really, honestly, all you need is Alpha Strike and a internet connection, and you can just play. So there's tons of free resources available, and it speeds things up so fast. And I don't know, I'm getting giddy and babbling because that's how much I really enjoyed Alpha Strike.
I haven't had a chance to play Alpha Strike yet, but I've read through the rules on it, and there are some things that I miss from the full BattleTech rules on it, but the more I think about it, the more I'm like, why do I miss this? Is it just nostalgia? Because I take a step back and say, okay, approach this as a new player, someone who really likes, mecha combat, like battle mechs fighting battle mechs, and it is the best way to play these sorts of things because it really streamlines everything. But it doesn't sacrifice the strategy involved either.
It doesn't even sacrifice the flavor. Like, tracking your heat in classic BattleTech is kind of a bookkeeping thing, right? Where you're just like, okay, I did this much heat and I can vent this much at the end of the round. They kept the flavor of heating up your mech in Alpha Strike, but they did it so elegantly where it's actually just a single decision that you make, and it's incredibly much less bookkeeping involved. And I don't know, I was really
it takes the
impressed.
Important part of heat, which is, okay, do you overheat your mech or do you not?
Yeah, like it's almost a binary thing. And
it takes that mechanic and it fixes it. It keeps everything you need to know about it, but it's just easy. It works.
Yeah, I'll say that, about 85% of all the things I thought I would like to change about BattleTech, Alpha Strike fixed. So yeah, absolutely 2 thumbs up for me.
So that's Ross's pick for the best miniature product of 2013, Alpha Strike from BattleTech, from Catalyst Game Labs. Now, we're going to move on to another category, which is another one of those kind of odd ones that Ross... you didn't even get a chance to play any of the games in 2013 that came out in 2013.
For this particular category, no. I mean, Werewolf is the closest thing that I got to play.
But Werewolf has come out every single year since.
Yeah, unfortunately, I did have to abstain from this one as well, but not for professional reasons, just because I hadn't played any of it. So,
however, I played the best party game that came out in 2013, in my opinion, at least.
Well, you got to announce
the
category. Okay.
The 2013 Gamers Tavern Award for Best Party Game is Raffle. This is a game designed by one of our first guests on the show, John Kovalik, and it is a party game where you get these clues that are like a book title or a movie title or a quote or something like that, and you have to spend about 45 seconds, get a little hourglass timer, and condense that as much as you can using text speak. And which, for the record, text speak is never once used anywhere in the rules, in the game, anywhere at all.
Well, let's
it's
be
just
clear.
Heavily implied.
Let's be clear to the listener, just in case you didn't quite catch what the title of the game is.
Roffle.
It's ROFL, the acronym for rolling on the floor laughing. So there is a little bit of text speak in the game, just in that
the text speak is all over the game. They just never actually use the phrase text speak.
Okay, well,
that's what I just wanted to be sure. It's kind of like how you don't say zombie in a zombie movie.
Right, but in case our accents mangle it, it's ROFL.
My apologies. I'm pronouncing it the way that I was told it's to be pronounced, which is Roffle, actually spelled out, but yes, ROFL. Now, like I said, you're trying to condense these quotes and phrases as tightly as you can while someone tries to and write them down and put your bid down for the fewest characters you think can get this message across. And then someone tries to guess it and both sides win points. The way that they balance the mechanic of, because a lot of these games that have judges, if it's not blind, like, Cards Against Humanity is blind, you take all the cards and you shuffle them up. So you don't know who played what card. But you can either consciously or unconsciously play favorites and kind of throw it when you're trying to guess or vote for someone else. They have a beautiful mechanic to kind of prevent that, and that both sides get points. So it's really well designed. It has the best aspects of a party game in every other way, shape, and form, too. It's fast to learn. I've almost explained to you the entire rules already. It is easy to play because there are so many cards that come with it, and because it is such an easy game to expand upon. Give me more cards. It has a lot of replay value, and the best aspect of any party game ever, you can play it when you're drunk off your ass.
Well, I think we're going to hear from a lot of listeners asking, why isn't Cards Against Humanity?
Because Cards Against Humanity came out in 2012.
Yeah, just to clarify.
That's why. Cards...
Because it's really catching on now,
Yeah, it took a little while to get seen, but I've had my copy for well over a year now. I've had it since... I think I got it with the first expansion. That's when I got it, so that was back in November of 2012. I love Cards Against Humanity. It just didn't meet the qualifications because it was released too late in the year. But Roffle is, for one thing that Roffle edges out Cards Against Humanity as a party game, in my opinion, for an awards situation, even though if it were up against it, sorry, John, Cards Against Humanity would have kind of won, but Roffle is a family-friendly game.
Which Cards Against Humanity is
not. When we did our playing games on the holidays, we brought up Roffle. Roffle got a PG rating, I believe, and I gave Cards Against Humanity the only NC-17 rating that we had on there. So,
going back to our family games episode, do you think Nicole Wakeland would approve of Total Fangirl? Would Total Fangirl play ROFL?
Yeah, she would play it with the kids. It is there is very little offensive. There might be an occasional damn in there here and there. I think it has pissed once, maybe, but I'm maybe mixing it up with, I played a lot of Cards Against Humanity.
You're really not helping.
But no, it is, because it's also quotes. So anytime it comes up, it is a quote from a famous film or from historical figures. So
what you're saying is, even if there might be a little bit of language in there, it'd be very easy to just skip over.
And it's also, the language is very, very mild. It's nothing that you wouldn't see on primetime television. Even on like the lightest of sitcoms.
Way to go for the low-hanging fruit there, by the way.
But yeah, it is a great game. It is fun to play. It is easy to learn. And everyone has a blast every time I've broken it out. It is a great game. The 2013 Gamers Tavern best party game is Roffle. ROFL exclamation point.
All right, and that takes us out of that category and into another. And we're going to leave the world of physical products behind because we are now going to go to the 2013 Gamers Tavern Awards for Best Gaming Website.
Spoiler alert, we didn't nominate Gamers Tavern because it's kind of conflict of interest. So,
well, I mean,
and
that's
honest,
a good point.
and honestly,
well, hang on, that's a good point to bring up though, because Gamers Tavern is technically a blog and a website and a podcast. I mean, really, if we were going to submit it for an award, and obviously, I mean, it's not going to be on our list, but if it was on someone else's list, I think I would want to submit it as the podcast rather than the website. Not that there's anything wrong with our website, but I think the thrust, the main, focus
website,
of the
website's still growing because of the holiday season. I've been slack. I do most of the content on the website, and
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the website. I'm just saying.
I'm saying there is, because I've been slacking because of the holidays. I'm going to be picking up on that, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
So I am going to pick up the ball on that. However, even if we were nominated, I don't think I would pick us over either of our 2 picks. They just did it better.
Well, I think my point is that the selections we made for the best gaming website, we made because the website functionality is their
I see what you're saying.
Primary reason to be, whereas the website functionality for our show is really just a vehicle to get you to listen to the show.
Get you to listen to the show and get you to read whatever random crap I throw up on the blog.
Well,
so it's not quite the same thing as our 2 winners for this.
So I'm going to go first on this one.
Okay.
My selection for best gaming website of 2013 is Obsidian Portal. And Obsidian Portal is just really one of the best places on the web to organize a role-playing game campaign. There are just tons and tons of resources that help you organize and keep track of where your game is going to. You can set up a wiki. You can set up your character sheets and pictures. You can track your XP and your treasure. I mean, it's really just incredibly high value to detail-oriented game masters like myself. And I think even more valuable probably to people who are running games remotely because it's useful for at the table, certainly, but it's also really helpful for just if you want to, say you're on a
I
trip.
forgot my character sheet.
Yeah, that's exactly one of the things that Obsidian Portal will do is, you forgot your character sheet? No problem. I have a copy on Obsidian Portal. Or if you're on a trip and you want to look back, you want to maybe write a journal entry from your character while you're sitting in the airport, which, I have certainly done that. Obsidian Portal is the right thing to do for that. In addition to all the things I just said, Obsidian Portal is a very active community of gamers involved with it, and it's very easy to go on the forums and get people to talk to you about, give ideas, or even maybe find a game to join. I have used it myself many times, Obsidian Portal, to help get a game organized. I think we had a Birthright game where we put all our character pictures up and all our different actions per domain turn and things like that. It was a really neat way to organize and keep our campaign running a little more smoothly. So, yeah, kudos to Obsidian Portal. I think if you are running a game, you should at least take a look at it and see if it's right for you. Because you never know. It might be.
Their site is so great. It is the perfect resource if you're running a campaign, if you're running a game, if you're a player. It is perfect.
It's pretty sweet. Although, before we jump into your nominee, I do want to say something that one of the reasons why I had to recuse myself, right? Mm-hmm. Darryl's nominee, when we talk about it, is something that I wish I had been able to nominate, but I just couldn't.
And I probably should have recused myself as well on this one, but because this is, and we do have an affiliate account.
We're bending the rules a little bit.
With this site, but I think that no one's really going to disagree with picking this one. It is Drive-Thru RPG. The site has made a lot of improvements this year on pretty much everything they've done. They've added a ton of new material, both from, independent game press people that some of us might know. But they've also, here's the big one, they started adding the classic Dungeons and Dragons modules and books and everything else from all the previous things, including, I think you were excited about this when it got thrown up, last week or the week before? Birthright is now available.
Yes.
And I was thrilled when Ravenloft started popping up on there. So, yeah, it is. Their catalog just keeps growing and growing and growing. It is a great site. It is easy to search now. It is far easier than it's been in its entire history. There is so much going on there, and especially because of its ease of access, You can, as a small publisher, create accounts, do print on demand, do PDFs, and you can create some really high quality products.
I speak from experience to say that small publishers get a immense amount of value out of all the things that Drive-Thru RPG offers.
And I love the little guys. I try to push for them as much as I can, both here and at the column. I love when the little guys get a chance to shine. I love let the best games win, regardless of if it's a big corporate office or with dozens of game designers, or if it's just two guys working out of their bedrooms. I want an even playing field, and that's what Drive-Thru RPG gives us. It is a great website, and again, I do have to point out they are kind of a sponsor of the show in that we get our affiliate account through them. But even without that, I cannot recommend it. It is one of the best gaming websites on the internet because there's just so much there.
It's fair to say it's not the first time we're going to bend the rules a little bit on this list, but I can't fault Darryl's choice. So there you go.
To recap, the 2013 Gamers Tavern Best Gaming Website, Ross's pick, Obsidian Portal. My pick, Drive-Thru RPG.
Yep. Well, and since we're talking about RPGs, which we have been, I mean, that's a pretty horrible segue. I apologize for that. That's what you call a lame duck segue. But we're going to talk about the next category. Darryl, do you want to introduce it?
This category is something that, again, Ross had to recuse himself from nominating a lot of things, I'm sure. But we both picked, I think, some really strong contenders in this one. This one is for Best Role-Playing Game Supplement.
Yeah, and you're right. I did have to recuse myself from quite a few supplements because that I did my fair share.
For the record, our strict line on this was if your name shows up in a book credit, that's when you cannot
you got to
nominate
take yourself out of it. Yeah. Do you want to jump into yours first?
I'll go ahead and do mine. Mine is from, and I really hope this gets me some goodwill because I tend to be a little bit hard on Paizo. And it has absolutely nothing to do with Pathfinder game. It has nothing to do with the designers or anything else. It's just, I'm not even going to get into it. But I have been a little bit hard on Pathfinder on the show, especially during our Edition Wars episode. I like to think I was actually harder on my favorite edition of D&D on that one, 4th edition, but
I was hard on it for you.
I was hard. No, I was hard on 4th edition too. I recognize its flaws, but Pathfinder is a great game, and I gotta say, my pick for the best RPG supplement has to be the Bestiary 4. It is, I have never seen a product that makes me want to go back and play another edition of a game that I haven't played in over a year more than this product. When I was looking through it, I got through like the first 10 pages and I'm like, what did they do? This is the best collection of monsters for probably any game I have seen in a very long time.
And they go back to the old 3.0, 3.5 approach where it's not just a big blob of stats. They talk about what the monster does and its ecology.
That is one of the best things about it. It gives you a lot of context for all these monsters, so you know exactly where to put them and how to use them. It gives you a lot of personality to use to bring more role-playing into the game when you're fighting these monsters. And here's the thing that I loved the most about it. It covers such a broad range in terms of how tough the monster is. There are good low-level monsters, there are good mid-level monsters, there are good high-level monsters. And that's not even counting the fact that they stat up a lot of IP that's very popular right now, including the mythos, the Cthulhu mythos, Lovecraftian monsters are statted in this book.
You can fight a Shoggoth.
Yes. You can fight Cthulhu. You can try to
eats 1d6 adventurers per round.
I couldn't quote that off the top of my head from this one, but it is literally the best collection of monsters I've seen in a long time. The way they presented them was great. The art is amazing. The production value, of course, it's Paizo. The production value was insane. So,
speaking of Cthulhu, it's insane. No, really. No, I'm sorry. I do like high quality monster books.
It is insanely good. And like I said, reading through this, I'm just reading through the first 10 pages. I'm like, okay, I've got like 5 new campaign ideas just from this. And when I finish the book, I'm like, I've got to run a Pathfinder campaign. If I hadn't committed myself to this Temple of Elemental Evil thing, I would be doing an original Pathfinder campaign right now, because this just sparked so many ideas for me, which is what the best monster books will do for you, is just completely, I want to use that and I have an idea how. And this thing did that, but I said, I want to use this and I've got 5 ideas how. Because that's how much depth they go into with the monsters, and they do it all in it is such an economy of space. I don't know how they crammed so much value in so little space for each monster. It doesn't feel like you've got these 5-page spreads on each thing. It's still the same sort of half a page to a page and a half, 2 pages on each one, but there's just so much good information there. They've got it so concise. It is amazing. So I cannot speak highly enough about the Pathfinder Bestiary 4.
And what's interesting is I also selected a Paizo product for this particular category. My selection for Best RPG Supplement is the Pathfinder Ultimate Campaign. Now, just like Darryl was saying, the thing he loved about the Bestiary was that it made him want to do Pathfinder Campaign again. Pathfinder Ultimate Campaign did that for me as well. And I wish we had, a Pathfinder group in my area that was willing to take me on, because I would totally play some Pathfinder right now. The Ultimate Campaign book for Pathfinder is, just to be honest, this is kind of hits my particular sweet spot. Like if you want to make a book and say, I want Ross Watson to like this book, you would make it to where it addresses running and organizing a campaign. And this book, that's what it's all about. It's pretty comprehensive. It includes some mass combat rules. It includes some random background generation. It includes some domain management rules, which is one of my favorite things of all time.
Oh, yeah.
It's a really, I don't want to say that it is perfectly complete, because, that's really hard. That's a really high bar to set. And it would probably take a much thicker book than this. But this book gets pretty close. They cover a really wide range of stuff in what they in their space.
And one thing that's kind of put me off in a lot of books that are like this is that they get into that same boring, okay, this is how role-playing game, this is how you DM, be fair. This book is nothing like that. They got that out of the way long ago.
Yeah, with the game mastery guide.
Yeah,
which was here's how to run a game. Yeah, this is not GM advice.
This is not how to run a game. This is how to make your game better.
It's a toolbox.
Yes.
Yeah, it's specifically aimed at groups that do not just do the one shots. It's specifically aimed at groups that are getting together to run story arcs and things like that. Like I mentioned, the random background generation. One thing I am a huge fan of is the old Flying Buffalo Heroes of Legend series by Paul/Janelle Jacques back in the day. And those are really, really great. And they kind of call back to that a little bit with their random background generation. So if you want to, and it's of course very themed to Galarian, their setting. So again, it's just a really cool way to jump in and make characters for this campaign. You're going to come up with some cool background bits. And then you're going to talk about maybe we're going to run a kingdom. So here's the rules to do that. And then our kingdom is going to attack another kingdom with an army. And here's the rules to do that.
That's something I've had a lot of people ask about online on various places is, I've got a big battle scene coming, a big war scene. How do I run that? Pathfinder Ultimate Campaign answers that question.
It's like they took a bunch of great supplements of the past, some of my favorite things, culled all the good parts out, themed them to fit Pathfinder, and stuck them in one book. And that's one of the reasons why I selected it. So, again, just to recap, for the Gamers Tavern Best RPG Supplement, Darryl's choice was Pathfinder Bestiary 4. My choice was Pathfinder Ultimate Campaign. So
Paizo kind of swept that one.
Great job to Eric Mona and Lisa Stevens and all the guys at Paizo. Thank you for making that easy on us.
Yeah.
There it was. And I guess I will introduce the next.
I was going to say, before we get into this one, okay, I would like to go to a special award we have, which is we have created the first Gamers Tavern Lifetime Achievement Award.
Okay.
Because this one was a really tough one for me because, we can always say, oh, hey, Dungeons and Dragons, or oh, hey, Shadowrun, or I really wanted to honor...
Which we might in the future. I mean, we're
not discounting that, but for our first...
We're not ruling them out.
But I wanted to get something that is I kind of think as many fans as there are of this product, I really wanted to pick a product that is a little bit more unsung, because I didn't want to go for something completely obvious, but I wanted to go for something the second we say the name, you're going to go, oh yeah, that deserves it. And I think between the two of us, we picked the perfect product for that. So
I'm going to give Darryl the credit on this one. I had to recuse myself as well on this one. So there you go. But I agree with Darryl's selection.
So we actually gave the Gamers Tavern Lifetime Achievement Award to the comic strip Knights of the Dinner Table.
Well, I would say the magazine Knights of the Dinner Table, because it
was originally a comic strip that evolved into a comic book that evolved into a role-playing game that is... Their role-playing game is one of the best takes on classic-style dungeon crawl D&D I've seen in a very long time.
True, but actually, Knights of the Dinner Table now, when you buy it, it is a comic.
Yeah, it is a comic. It's on the shelf with Spider-Man.
Yeah, but it's actually what it actually is this one of the successors to Dragon Magazine. There is gaming advice, and there is even dungeons, and there are.
I was about to say I would say it was more along the lines of White Dwarf, but no, like the old school Dragon Magazine before it was all D&D all the time. Yes, I mean, definitely.
There are other publications that are much closer to Dragon. I think that's fair to say.
Well, no.
But Knights of the Dinner Table is I think it's not just a comic strip. That's the only point I'm trying to make, is that it is actually a magazine that helps celebrate every aspect of our hobby, which is one of the reasons why I agree with you that it deserves the Lifetime Achievement Award. And we picked a good time for it, because this year, 2013, that is, not 2014, they published their 200th issue.
Yep, and I have a copy.
I have every single copy. I have 1 to 200. There you go.
I don't have that many quite. But yeah, Knights of the Dinner Table. And I see what Ross is saying. Calling it a comic strip, that even though that was its origin, it was just a comic strip about a bunch of guys sitting at the table that showed up in Dragon and in Dungeon Magazine back in the day. It has evolved into something far more than just that. Even if you pick up the comic book, it's going to be 48 pages long, but only about half of it's going to be devoted to the ongoing story going on. And even if you want to just focus on the comics themselves, it is a great story. The characters are perfect reflections of the different types of gamers. They are caricatures, but they don't fall into that repetitive, boring. There's a certain 3-camera sitcom that is kind of nerdy that everyone talks about being stereotypes. These guys are caricatures, but they're not stereotypes. They have their own personalities.
And Darryl is absolutely correct in pointing out that the comic strip, I was saying it's a magazine, but the heart and soul of what Knights of the Dinner Table is that ongoing comic story that Jolly Blackburn has created along with Dave Kenzer and all the guys at Kenzer and Company. And it is...
Yeah, that was the foundation
it's funny as hell.
Stuff grew out of.
It's funny as hell, but you will also recognize... I mean, if you read the comic, you will recognize people in the gaming industry. They have a character called Gary Jackson, and it's obvious who Gary Jackson is, right? Yes. And they have characters that you're like, I know that guy. I mean, just even like little minor characters only show up like once or twice. You know that guy. You've seen him in the game store. Or you've seen him at the convention. And, I could talk about Knights of the Dinner Table all night long, but I think I am very proud that Darryl chose this for the Lifetime Achievement Award, because it is, in my opinion, very deserving, although, again, this is Darryl's selection.
Because you had to recuse yourself because you've actually written some articles for them, haven't you?
I've been published 6 or 7 times in Knights of the Dinner Table. So.
Because like Ross was saying, I'm focusing on the comic and how influential that was, but so much more has grown out of it. We've already mentioned the Hackmaster role-playing game, which, yeah, it started off as this kind of jokey spin-off from D&D, but if you have not looked at the most recent edition, it is a full-fledged role-playing game that's a fantasy role-playing game that it is the closest I can think of to the perfect dungeon crawl old-school fantasy RPG.
Let's actually talk about that for a second. If you want to count the number of games, full games that have sprung from Knights of the Dinner Table, you have to count Fairy Meat, you have to count Dog the Role Playing Game, you have to count Hackmaster. I mean, there's a list. of games that have come straight out of the strip.
And I'm going to take your word for it because the only one I know of is Hackmaster. So,
Well,
but
Fairy
yeah,
Meat was an
but
actual miniature game that they published that was right out of the strip. There are plenty of games that they do in the strip that I would still love to see someday as an actual game, like Cattle Punk.
oh yeah,
I would love to see Cattle Punk, which basically that's what Aces and Eights is. I mean, if you really want to boil it down, Aces and Eights is Cattle Punk. But anyway, point is that this humble comic strip has achieved great things. It has achieved things that a lot of gamers wish that they could do. And Jolly, the guy, sort of behind the whole thing, he's just the nicest fellow you could ever meet. Go up and talk to him at Gen Con if you ever get a chance. Just tell him.
Any convention he's at, just make sure he's not busy, but go up, introduce yourself, say hi, say you're a fan. He will talk your ear off about gaming. I just said, wow, that's a cool rig when I saw his gaming rig that we talked about on the previous show, where he has this like flat panel monitor with like a Lexan code on it that he can draw on, but from his laptop or his tablet, he can send maps to it. And he just spent there geeking out over how awesome this thing is. And I'm like, it's like commonplace to him now. He's had it for so long.
And
but
the last thing, yeah,
still nerding out over it. And he is a great guy to talk to, really down to earth, really cool. Definitely go up and introduce yourself and say, hi, I'm a fan. And he will just be cool. Be cool.
If he's not there, talk to Dave Kenzer.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing I want to say before we wrap up, and I just, like I said, again, I could talk about Knights of the Dinner Table all night long because I love it that much. They do have a Kickstarter running right now to do a live action version of the comic book. So if you are a fan of the comic book, if you like seeing Bob and Dave and Sarah and Brian and BA play their game and you want to see it done in real life, and what's crazy is, like, if you go and look at this Kickstarter, they got actors to look just like those guys. Now, it's shocking.
Now, I'm going to tell you right now, the trailer they have up is rough from a filmmaker's point of view. It is rough, but when you spent so much time watching, I've been to so many student film festivals, film schools over the years, I can tell you some horror stories. When you see something that's rough, you can tell the difference between we didn't have the time and money to do what we wanted to do, or we don't have the talent to pull off what we wanted to do. These guys just, it's a matter of they need the money to be able to pull off what they want. There's nothing wrong with the actors. There's nothing wrong with the editing. There's nothing wrong with the direction. It is just they need the money. So if you get the chance, back them on Kickstarter.
Search for Knights of the Dinner Table Live.
I will have a link in the show notes to them. It is they got some amazing actors who are really good. They're really good on camera, and it's almost like they jumped out of the page. They look so much like their characters. So yeah, definitely back that. Definitely check out Knights of the Dinner Table. It is a great comic. It is a great magazine if you want gaming resources. If you want one of those cross-genre where there's articles over the weirdest game you can think of, just randomly pops up, this is the magazine you want to check out.
And, I got to be honest with you. Sometimes if I'm struggling for something that my character would do, I will honestly think about, like, some of the characters from the like what would Knuckles do in this situation? Oh. And then I ask the GM, I say, is anybody in this bar eyeballing me? Because I stare back at him hard. Anyway, so that's Knights of the Dinner Table. That's the Lifetime Achievement Award for 2013 Gamers Tavern Awards. So the next entry in the Gamers Tavern Awards for 2013 is Best RPG Rules System.
Now, for the record, this is specifically focusing on the rules for the game, not necessarily the setting, not necessarily anything else. We're talking about solely the mechanics.
Right. My selection for Best RPG Rule System of this year, 2013, is 13th Age. 13th Age is by some really well-known guys in the D&D area. You might recognize Rob Heinsoe and Jonathan Tweet. And 13th Age is mechanically, because we are talking about systems here, it is mechanically kind of a bridge between some of the best elements of the Dungeons & Dragons editions that we've talked about in the past. And it's a really exciting twist on fantasy adventuring because they added some really great mechanics to help your characters get involved in the story. Actually, we talked a little bit about some of these mechanics when we were talking about world building with Darryl Hardy and Colin McComb. Mm-hmm. And we mentioned the term engagement anchor, and we agency nodes. So we used all these like these big names, but 13th Age does this really well, where it takes some mechanical elements that make your character unique, and then find a way to put him in the story. And honestly, very few fantasy game systems that I've seen in the last few years are really that interesting. But this one, 13th Age, makes me psyched to start playing it. I wish I had more experience playing this game so that I could say more about it. But it is very, very cool, and it has extremely high production values. I should mention that as well. But from just the sheer RPG rules system, I think anybody who is interested in fantasy gaming and is maybe wanting to find some new twists or some new ways to get their players even more engaged in the story, definitely check out 13th Age.
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't had much of a chance to check this game out personally. I've gone over a beta version of the rules when they were still just starting out. Everything looks so awesome. It just makes me wish I had more hours to just devote to gaming, because I would love to run I've got so much stuff on my platter right now, I just can't do it right now, but everything that's in there just seems so intriguing. The mechanics seem so... It's like, why the hell weren't we doing this before? And there are a lot of stuff out of there I have actually pulled out of 13th Age to house rule into my other games.
Oh yeah, I am stealing from this like crazy right now. So
I would love to run a straight game of it, but it's just a time factor. I just haven't had a chance, but it's definitely on my list to get to very, very soon. But yeah, it looks amazing. Now, another game that I personally haven't had a time to run, but I have gotten to play once, is my selection, which Ross had to recuse himself because he is credited in this game. My winner for Best RPG Rules System is Star Wars Edge of the Empire from Fantasy Flight Games. It has, for one thing, the production values on this book. You've seen Fantasy Flight Games before. This is not a company that's known for half-assing it when it comes to production values. They went above and beyond with this book. The art is so evocative and so perfect, and it's at the same time, they didn't just, rehash stills from the movie. They got original art, and it looks beautiful. Of course, however, this is not about, how it looks and everything. This is about the rule system. The rule system for Star Wars Edge of the Empire is hands down one of the most innovative I have seen in a very, very long time. And I've actually gotten to arguments online where I have told people, because they use these special dice that are also used in the X-Wing miniatures game, a lot of people were complaining about that, and my response to them is, this is the most ingenious way to, it simplifies a lot of things. Math is not as big of a barrier. You don't have to add up big numbers to this, you just have to add up how many symbols you rolled. That takes a lot of pressure off of you as a player. You can focus more on the story and the character than on the numbers on the dice. And it is one of the most, and this is completely outside of gaming, but it's one of the most ingenious anti-piracy measures I've ever seen. Because even if you go and pirate the game illegally, which do not do that, you're stealing money. You're stealing food from the mouths of starving game developers. No piracy. But even if you do that, you still have to go buy the dice.
Well, let's be fair. I mean,
I don't think that was why they did that, but it was a good side effect.
That's a side effect. It was not an intentional feature.
But just the rules in this, it is such... And because Star Wars is one of those systems where you kind of want something that is both meaty, because you have longtime fans, people have been playing since the old Western Games days. You want someone... Those gamers have to have their system. They have to have the meat behind it. But you also have to have something that's accessible to new players, the kids who grew up watching the prequels and Clone Wars, and you kind of have to tell them, no, this is how you play. This is Star Wars. I don't know what the hell you've been watching.
Well, I can add some things here. I mean, it's really important that I make you guys aware that I definitely had to recuse myself from mentioning this game, because I was actually there from the very beginning of the design of this game. I worked actually directly with Jason Little on some things like skill lists and some of the races and things like that. And I actually got to write a chunk of the core book.
Here's one thing I want to point out with this. Ross had to recuse himself of this. I actually had to fight Ross to let me award the award to this because he did not want me to do it. And I'm like, name a better system.
Well,
And
it's your choice.
He came up with 13th Age, which is a good system, but I personally don't have any experience with 13th Age actually playing it. I have played Edge of the Empire, so...
Well, I just want to share... I will share some of my perspective on it, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons why, and I do believe it is a good game. I mean, absolutely. Don't ever think for a second I don't think it's a good game. But we need to acknowledge some things about what it is. First of all, it is an evolution of the dice system was first introduced in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 3rd Edition. It is I would say almost a revolution. It's a pretty big step forward from that foundation. So if you've played Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 3rd Edition, don't think that you've played Edge of the Empire, but you at least have an idea of where some of the dice mechanics come from.
This is like saying that you've played Shadowrun 4th Edition, so you know World of Darkness. Maybe, but it's not.
Well, you know some of the
thing.
Basics. You know some of the basics.
You've got the general idea, but there's a lot more going on.
Sure. And I also want to mention that it's not just that though. There's a lot of people who absolutely love Star Wars, who are really great designers, who are part of this game. Jay Little is the first one I should mention. He's the head rules guy behind this. Mm-hmm. Sam Stewart, Andy Fisher, some great guys that I worked with at Fantasy Flight were a big part of it. Dan Clark. But on top of that, the Accursed Trio, John Dunn, Jason Marker, and myself were all part of this. We had Sean Patrick Fannin, who worked on some of the D6 Star Wars stuff, was on this. Shane Hensley, you know that name from Savage Worlds. He worked on some of this. It's really kind of an all-star set of designers that came together for this book. And I love the way that the dice help you tell the story. It's about interpreting the role in terms of the story.
That is one of the reasons why I thought this was so mechanically brilliant, is that the dice are there and the system behind it is solid. The math is there, but it is so invisible when you're playing the game.
Yeah, and I'll have more to say about this maybe another time, but specifically from the standpoint of the mechanics, I think that's my favorite bit, is that it's about interpreting the roles help you tell the story. And it's more than just a simple did I succeed or fail and by how much. So that's really about it. 2013
Best RPG Rules System, Ross's pick, 13th Age. My pick, Star Wars, Edge of the Empire. And that takes us to one. I'm going to go first on this one.
Okay, well, announce the...
of course I am. Our category for this one is the 2013 Gamers Tavern Best RPG Campaign Setting. And, of course, Ross had to recuse himself from nominating this one, but I couldn't help myself. Accursed. And I have to do it, Ross. Accursed. It is... I have never had a system that has captured so much of what I wanted to see. I have been dying for a good Ravenloft game in a long time, and you gave me something that was even better than Ravenloft. It is a brilliant reimagining of one of my favorite genres, the dark fantasy genre. It is an amazingly imaginative design. It is just the perfect world for running a game in it. There's lots of description and lots of plot hooks, but there's still a lot of white space and a strong adventuring paradigm. Yes, I'm stealing your own words to describe your game system and how much I love it. It is brilliant. And even beyond that, if you just want to look at the pure aesthetics, the art, the layout, the production, the writing is just so spot on, and it's all in tone with the setting. And I have never had a game setting that just resonated so well with me since Shadowrun. Well, on behalf of myself, Jason Marker, and John Dunn, I thank you very much for selecting it. Again, it's... it has to be your choice because I can't. There's just no way I could do this. But so what I can do is again do my perspective on it is from what we wanted to build. We wanted to build on things that you mentioned like Ravenloft. You can't award Accursed and not say Ravenloft because it was based on obviously. Like I said, I do have to say, even though Ross is the co-host of this podcast, that had nothing to do with it. The fact that they gave me my first kind of cover quote on their Kickstarter when I said it's Ravenloft, just like someone slipped Ravenloft some PCP. It's that might have had a little bit to do with it. That's the reason why I started really well. The fact that I saw the thing and I emailed you guys and said, "This is what this looks like," and you said, "Can we quote you?" I'm like, "Yes." That's what got me really interested in reading it. But not even counting any of that, just reading that book, it again sparked so many ideas. It gave me so much stuff. I want to dive into this world. I haven't had a chance to read the novella yet. That's top of my list. It is just one of my favorite campaign settings I have seen, again, since Shadowrun. You guys have heard me nerd out about about Shadowrun. This is my second favorite campaign setting ever.
Well, I do appreciate it, Darryl. I don't want to risk us getting into the whole mutual appreciation society thing, but thank you very much.
Did I hear a little quaver? Are you tearing up?
Well, yeah, I'm very proud of it. It's something that was a big goal for us this year or last year to get done, and we're all very pleased with the way it came out. And that's going to take me to because
for the record, we had show notes on all of these, and we hit our bullet points. My bullet point for Accursed is it's a surprise, so he had no clue what I was going to say, and he did not know I was going to lavish so much love on Accursed. It is just like I said, it is the best campaign setting I have seen in ages. It is. There was no other choice for me.
And speaking of great campaign settings. I'm actually going to mention my post here, my selection here as well. And I guess for this whole category, we're bending the rules a little bit because I am going to pick my selection for best RPG campaign setting of 2013 is Shintar. Shintar is epic fantasy, and it is a creation of a good friend of mine, Sean Patrick Fannin. And just to be very, very clear, there is a Accursed Shintar crossover adventure that is in the works for sometime 2014 coming out. So it took me some soul searching to go ahead and make this selection.
Yeah, we had this conversation earlier today. He asked me, I kind of want to change my answer on the campaigns. I really think Shintar deserves the best. And I'm like, okay, if you imagine a world where you are not doing the crossover, would you still pick it?
Yeah. Shintar is. I've got the privilege of actually playing in Shintar with Sean Fannin on more than one occasion, and it's just a super cool fantasy setting. And when he says epic fantasy on the cover of his book, he is not lying. That book is absolutely chock full of epic fantasy, and the care and the passion that Sean puts into it is just evident on every page. It has, to use one of Darryl's favorite lines, it has a fun adventuring paradigm where it sets you up as...
I stole that line from you.
I know.
Don't blame me for it.
We're trading it back and forth. But it has a fun adventuring paradigm where you... sort of the default mode of playing Shintar is you're part of a group called the Grey Rangers, who are sort of troubleshooters on the frontier of these larger-than-life nations, And he has... This brilliant cosmology, and he has these histories behind all of the bad guys and the monster races, and it's just it's so cool. I urge anyone who's interested in looking at some, if epic fantasy sounds like something you want to play, and you're looking for somewhere new to do it, somewhere fresh and creative, check out Shintar because it is definitely what you're looking for. And I think there is probably no better pick that I personally could have made for this year's best campaign setting than Shintar.
Now, I unfortunately don't know. The only thing I know about Shintar is from when Sean Patrick Fannin was on the show, and we talked to him about it a little bit. When you say epic fantasy, what exactly do you mean?
I mean that when Sean says epic fantasy, you can imagine your character as a larger-than-life hero righting wrongs and slaying demons and just, riding off into the sunset with the fanfare playing. I mean, it is absolutely that, right? I mean, he has these great mechanics for playing, sort of cinematic heroes. And whenever I play Shintar with Sean, it's like the whole world goes away, and I am Sir Stefan Draudersbane, and I am standing on the wall, the last bastion of humanity against the great dragon of flame. So yeah, I mean it's there, it's just all there, and We were going to have Sean back on the show, I'm sure, at some point to talk about it. But it's a really cool thing, and definitely go check it out, Shinetar.
All right. And that'll take us to our next category, which is the 2013 Gamers Tavern Best Gaming Accessory Product. This would be something that is not directly a source book, not directly a setting or a rule system. This is the thing that you buy to make your games better. And Ross, why don't you go ahead with your nominee?
Okay. My selection for Best Gaming Accessory Product is Gygax Magazine. Remember when I said earlier that Knights at the Dinner Table was a spiritual successor to Dragon Magazine? Well, Gygax Magazine is an absolute worthy successor. I mean, not that Knights at the Dinner Table isn't worthy, it is. But Gygax is basically picking up where Dragon left off. It has beautiful cover art. It has gorgeous interior. I mean, it will make you nostalgic as hell if you like Dragon Magazine back in the day. And it's got pretty good articles in it and stuff. I mean, they're actually really kind of trying to reboot that whole feel of what Dragon Magazine was.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that Gygax is on the cover. It's not just there to exploit Gary's memory.
No, not at all. No, it's actually, I believe the editor. I mean, I would have to look this up to be sure, but I know that the Gygax family is involved. I actually now you're making me sad. I wish I had done more research on this. So what I know is that it's a really great magazine. It is a really fine entry into this, and it's not just for fantasy, role playing. It's not just for Dungeons and Dragons. It's not just for Pathfinder. Go take a look at it. I mean, you can buy it as a PDF, so you don't have to worry about the physical copies if you don't want to. And it's available on drive-thru, like we mentioned them earlier. The gaming industry is a little incestuous, so a lot of the things we're talking about, it's going to be connected.
Now, for the record, what I was talking about is if you go to Gygax Magazine's website and click on Who We Are, there are two publishers listed. One is Luke Gygax, which is Gary Gygax's son, and Ernie Gygax, who is also related to Gary, obviously. So this is that Gygax on the cover is not there to exploit the memory. They are involved in the production.
Yeah, this is magazine. For real. This is basically the dynasty. This is the kind of the history actually of our hobby. And I think that's another reason why I just love it is that I know it's tied directly into some of the people that have made the games and the hobbies that I enjoy so much today.
So that's Ross's winner for Best Gaming Accessory Product, Gygax Magazine. I went in a little bit of a different direction on this. I went with another Paizo product, the Pathfinder Bestiary Box 2.
You got monsters on the brain.
Well,
monsters.
Paizo knocked it out of the park with monsters this year.
No. You're right. You're absolutely right. I agree.
I as much as I love minis, I understand a lot of people. I got into minis when the D&D minis were so, because I don't paint, so I don't have a lot of the old like pewter and lead minis. I had to do with what I had. So why
don't you tell the listeners what's in the box so they know what they're talking about?
I'm coming about it in a roundabout way.
Okay.
I got in on minis early on whenever they were dirt cheap, like the D&D minis were still in print. They have skyrocketed in price since they're out of print now, to where you can't even get the cheap ones for less than $3 a pop now. If you like that sort of 3D style where you want them to actually stand up on the table, not those little circular tokens that you just drop on the mat, if you want that sort of 3D effect and you want a lot of monsters, but you do not want to drop a lot of money on it, the Pathfinder Bestiary Box 2 and its successor, which is in a previous year, so it wasn't eligible, but they're great because they have those really high quality, really thick cardstock they're pawns technically, because you insert them in these plastic bases and they stand up on the table in scale to size. And
so if you have a battle mat and you want to show off the dragon that's attacking, you could go out and buy the really expensive big 3D model, or you could buy probably for the same price. You could get the box set full of these tokens.
The box set for the tokens, for the entire box set, cost as much as one of the huge sized dragons they have if you go to the aftermarket at this point. It is perfect for DMs that are on a budget who want to run these sort of combat-heavy miniatures. You want to move all these pieces around on the board sort of game. It is insanely high quality. The art, it's Paizo. The art's amazing. The quality on the tokens is through the roof. They are so thick. I have tried to bend them. I had to use, literally, put them on the, again, for science. I tried to break them specifically for science. Put it on the table with a book and press down in order to bend one of these in half.
Daryl's like that neighbor kid from Toy Story.
No,
you know, he's like, I'm just gonna break them.
I don't do it for sadism. I do it for science. It was an experiment to find out what it would take to break one of these things, and it took a lot because I have to review these things. I have to understand exactly what it takes. How much damage can this take? A lot. It's high quality. These things are good. They're going to last you a long time if you take even the most remote care of them, by which I mean you throw them back in the box when you're done and close the box.
There is research to be run on the ones who are still alive.
I had it out of my head for about 30 seconds. You asshole. But the Pathfinder is perfect for DMs that are on a budget that want to be able to have that visual impact of a bunch of monsters on the table, and no more of this. Okay, I've got this many. He's actually a goblin, but on the table he's a harpy. No, screw that. You now have all the monsters you could want in a box. And that's kind of all it is. It's these big punch-out sheets of this really thick cardstock where you punch out all the monsters and you put them on these things. But putting it that simply is underselling how powerful of a product this is, because you have no idea how many times growing up I wish there was something like this. When I was a broke high school and college student running games, I wish I had something like this, because it is just the best way to get that sort of experience of I can look on the table and see exactly where everything is, see what everything is, and eyeball everything, and it still looks good. So my pick for the best gaming accessory product of 2013, the Pathfinder Bestiary Box 2.
All right. And that is going to take us a little bit away from actual game products. Our next category is a tricky one. I mean, if anyone's seen my my blog post about the Ennies of last year, you kind of understand where I'm coming from. But the category that we chose here was best non-game gaming related product.
This is, for the record, this makes complete sense in my head. It's trying to sum it down into a tightly worded category that was the problem. I spent weeks agonizing over this title.
So it's a gaming related product that is not a game. That's the core thing you need to understand.
Exactly. It is something that is directly related to. It'll make a lot more sense when we actually talk about our winners for this year. But it is a product that is directly related to the gaming industry and gaming culture. That is not in and of itself a game product. It's not something you would put on the table to play a game.
And so for the 2013 Gamers Tavern Best Non-Game Gaming-Related Product, I chose for Ross's pick the Order of the Stick webcomic. And what is there to say about the Order of the Stick webcomic? If you haven't read it, I don't know what I'm going to be able to say to you to get across how awesome it is, because it is awesome. It is everything awesome about gaming, especially fantasy gaming in a D&D milieu, and it's just one of the best webcomics out there as well. It's consistently high quality content over a really long. We could really put this into lifetime achievement if we wanted to.
Yeah,
he's been going for a long time, but I'm going to use that as an example of its quality. That it's been going for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
I think they're on like 400, 500 at this point, something like that.
Several hundred strips, and every single one of them is entertaining. There are no duds. You know what I mean? The Order of the Stick is just simply a webcomic that has never let me down. It is a webcomic that has always celebrated gaming. You should see the tributes to Dave Arneson gave Gary Gygax when they died.
Yes, they are brilliant. Hands down my favorite tributes to their memories when they passed as the comic strip went on.
And it's just a wonderful way to poke fun at some of the things that you do on the table. It's a way to poke fun at some of the ways the rules work. It's a way to poke fun at and even really provide some thoughtful commentary on game elements like alignment. There's a character called Miko who's a paladin, and the story arc of
how she interacts with Beltos.
The story arc of Miko and the way she interprets lawful good is really thought provoking. I found it to be pretty deep.
Yeah, she was in many ways the quintessential example of lawful stupid, in my opinion.
Well,
but there were so
without
many
getting too much deep into it.
There's more to it than that, obviously. But the thing is, though, she was balanced by other paladins of her order, which were lawful good, without falling into those same traps.
Let's just say her arc is just one example of many arcs that they do that are really, really great stories.
It is. I hate saying it's a very meta comic because it is self-referential when it comes to that, because it shortchanges the fact that not only is it really smart comedic writing for gamers, but it has this quality of the story itself. If you strip out all those metagaming jokes in there, there's still an amazingly strong story.
Well, it's not just the story. The characters are brilliant. The conflicts are brilliant. And as Darryl Hardy says, that's what the core of any good story is. And
it's amazing characters, amazing plot, amazing world, amazing jokes.
Everything works. That's all I can tell you. And again, I think I'm just going to wrap this up, and Darryl can say whatever he wants because I know he is also a big fan. But Order of the Stick for me is, although it's not going to add a lot of stuff directly to your gaming, you're going to be, anybody who reads it, I'm sure, will find something inspirational in there.
Sorry, go ahead.
And that's really just all I had to say. So go ahead.
I was going to say, just building off that, because I could go on for an entire episode just on Order of the Stick. I could sit there and write commentary on every single comic that has come out for Order of the Stick. That's how good and how deep the writing is in this. It is, sure, it's stick figures in a D&D game. No, it is so much more than that. It is amazingly well written. The plot is amazing. The story, the world, the characters, the character arcs are just... I cannot explain how awesome this comic is. If you have not read it, check it out. And if you have a friend who's been out of the hobby for a long time, you played D&D with him in high school, but he kind of moved on to other things, but he's kind of been he's been posting on Facebook about the Hobbit movies or Game of Thrones, so you think he might want to get back into it, send him a link. You'll get him back at the gaming table in a week. Guaranteed.
Well, if it, you'll have to email Darryl if it doesn't work. That's all I got to say.
Hey, I didn't say money. Well, I will say money back guarantee because it's free on the web. So.
Well, that's one of the best things about it. There is no barrier to entry. It is free.
I have read through the entire archive at least half a dozen times, and I am entertained every single time I read through.
Yeah, don't blame us if you get addicted and start binge reading it while it works.
Oh, yeah.
So
my apologies to all your bosses if you have not read it and are just hearing about it.
Well, let's move on to your selection.
Because I think you have a lot to say about my selection as well.
I do.
My selection is a feature film that was released toward the end of the year that was distributed. It was the first movie that was distributed by Chris Hardwick's Nerdist Industries. It is a feature film on a fantasy role-playing game that's never actually named in the film, but we all know what it is. And it follows a guy who's obsessed with this game, and it is one of the most brilliant takes on gaming. It is a love letter to gaming without being overly sentimental, and it's harsh on gaming without being mean or hypercritical or making fun of gamers. It is the film Zero Charisma. Ross, say what you said on your Facebook page, because I can't sum it up better, and if you don't say it, I'm going to steal your line.
Well, okay, I'm a fairly notorious harsh critic of films in that I am always the guy who will say, well, I think there was always a little piece that didn't work. And there are pieces of Zero Charisma that I think are flawed. But beyond that, like as a whole, I think it's a good film. And the things that I like about it is that it has really excellent acting. The main character, the actor who plays that guy, is named Darryl looking him up to get the right name for me in a second.
Shit.
But all of the actors do a fantastic job. The main character actor who plays Scott Weidermeyer, the character. He is amazing. He makes you feel for him, even when his character is, kind of unsympathetic.
Sam
And
Eidson is the actor.
yeah, that is his name. Sam Eidson does a brilliant job of showing you that vulnerability and that wounded sort of inner child inside of him, which is really hard. But more than that, the reason why I liked Zero Charisma a lot was because it holds up a mirror to tabletop gaming culture.
That was the line I'm going to steal. So.
It shows us both the good and the bad of the hobby that we love. And you will recognize pieces of yourself in some of these characters that it shows you. It definitely caused me to cringe, especially in the first 40 minutes. I was just like, "Oh God, oh!"
You will
because
see
it was so accurate.
It
was so accurate.
You have been in the situations that the characters have been in.
Yeah,
you have
or you've
seen the things
yeah.
they've seen, and this is the one that got me, is you might see yourself a little bit in some of the characters where you don't want to see yourself in them.
Darryl gave a good example when he said it's not mean-spirited, right?
Yes.
It does have at times an unflattering look at some of the characters, but the characters are the reason why they're unflattering. The actions that they take, it is not mean-spirited towards the hobby. If anything, it actually kind of shows the hobby as a kind of a cool, fun thing to do. And that's, if you had any concerns about that, I would like to lay them to rest. But it is just a really fun, great film about a hobby we love, with some very memorable characters and some situations that are going to be familiar, I think, to every gamer.
I think you talked more about my selection than I did. You also have watched it more recently than I have. I watched it when it came out.
Well, I'm sure you've got things to say about it. Please go ahead.
Yeah, it is. You've kind of hit all the points. It's, like I said, the best way I can describe it is not mean-spirited. It doesn't go for the low-hanging fruit at any point in time. It holds a mirror up to the gaming culture, both for good and for ill. It shows us exactly what we are. Even if it's not you, it may be a friend, it may be a guy from the comic store, it may be a guy you gamed with in college. You're going to see something of every single person, every single character in this. You're going to see it, and you have been in some of the situations that are going to be highly uncomfortable. Every single one of us. I'm trying to describe it without spoiling anything, because there are some brilliant scenes in this movie that are I kind of want to get in touch with it was written by Andrew Matthews. I kind of want to get in touch with him and said, "Who told you what happened to me that day?"
Well, and
not that scene.
Pacing.
It's another scene. So once you see the movie, it's not that scene that I'm talking about. It's another scene.
It's got great pacing to it. It flows very well. Yeah, like I said, it's got some flaws to it, but it is just overall a really, really good film, and that's.
And
you don't actually have a lot of films.
Ross keeps saying it has flaws. Name a film that doesn't have flaws other than Casablanca.
Well, I just don't want to give people the idea that I'm saying, gushing about it, because
it is not. Every movie has flaws. This movie has
There are some that come closer to flawless than others. Let's just put it that way.
Casablanca, I already mentioned it. That's the only flawless movie in existence.
Well, you know what? This is not a discussion about film, because we could do that for a long time. It does. The key word is it hits close to home. Yes. Is what this does, and it's accurate, and it is well paced, good acting, and there aren't very many movies about our hobby to watch. So
we have said this a couple of times already, but I really, really want to hammer this point home, because a lot of people were worried about, because of the way that gaming has been depicted in a lot of movies. Even when it's depicted positively, it's still depicted as kind of basement dwelling, live with your mother, and let me make all the standard jokes that everyone does. This does not do this. This is, when you're watching this movie, these people have lived this life. These are the Andrew Matthews, he is a gamer, because he knows
Right.
what these people do. It is not making fun of gaming. Any jokes that might seem like they're making fun of gaming, if you put them on another character in this movie, they would not make sense and they would not be in there. It is the characters that are flawed, not gamers that are flawed. This is not mean-spirited.
Right. I think that's one thing they did very well is they pointed out
it's the character,
the character
his hobby.
And his actions are what the character and their actions is what is the driving it's driving humor and it's driving the conflict. The hobby is the thing that they do, and but it's not the focus of the humor.
It could have been any other hobby in question, right. And these characters probably would have acted pretty much the same way.
And it's a different
these
for
are
example,
definitely gamers. So
there's no question the movie The Gamers, right? The movie The Gamers, the humor is coming from the hobby, right? And the portrayal of the hobby, and it's and by the way, I love The Gamers. Gamers is a great film, but I'm just trying to say it's a different approach than The Gamers, because in this one the humor and the setups and everything it's focused on the character.
To me, it's a throwback to those independent films that were coming out in like the early to mid 90s that were so character focused.
Yes.
It's a throwback to those, and the fact that gaming is involved is core to the characters and core to the plot and core to the story. So it's not that you can just pull out gaming and slap anything else on, but gaming is the setting. It is a quintessential setting. It is an essential setting to the movie, but it is just the setting. It is not... No one is making fun of gaming involved in this. If nothing else, it is a love letter to gaming, and including all the flaws that come along with some of the people that are involved in gaming.
Yeah, and we... again, we're going to point back to the conversation we had with Nordling in the episode about gaming and film. If you want to hear Nordling's take on it, because he does talk about that film a little bit.
Yes.
And let's move on to the main event. The 2013 Gamers Tavern Game of the Year.
Now, we went a little bit different with this one in that I picked a runner-up, Ross picked a runner-up, and we picked together a Game of the Year.
Well, and you picked it, and I agreed.
We're going to talk about exactly what happened with the Game of the Year when we mention it, but I want to go ahead and start with my runner-up for Game of the Year because it requires a little bit of explanation. My runner-up for Game of the Year is a game called Dead Panic. Dead Panic is from Fireside Games, and it's a successor to Castle Panic. And it's a board game. So why didn't I name it as the best board game? It's because the way my mind categorizes things, that's why. It is not the best board game of the year, but in my opinion, it is the second best game overall that came out that year, because it takes what made Castle Panic great. Very simple gameplay, really deep and interesting, but it fixed a lot of the problems that the game had, which it is one of my favorite games, Castle Panic. It was very well designed. It is a great game. It is a great gateway game. We talked about that in our Gaming with Family episode, but it plays a little bit long, and sometimes it can feel like a little bit of a grind. Dead Panic fixed that so well and so brilliantly, in that you're not just stuck in the castle playing these cards. You have characters that have special abilities and they can move out, and it is zombie tower defense in the best way possible. And it is completely familiar to anyone who has played the original Castle Panic, but it is its own game. It is a great update to a brilliant game. The added complexity just brings so much more to the table than you could ever think they could have done with this concept. But they did it. They improved on it. It's better than it was before without competing with Castle Panic. So my runner-up for Game of the Year is Dead Panic.
My runner-up for Game of the Year is 13th Age. I don't know what else I can say about 13th Age that I didn't already cover in the best system. I guess I can say that I think the world of 13th Age is really cool. I think that, again, I just want to say I really look forward to playing it. I really want to play this game. And there were many other good games that came out this year, and most of them I just honestly couldn't because I had some involvement with it. Mentioned, but anyway, I'm not saying 13th Age is second best by any means. It's in my opinion, it is the game of the year for 2013. But I want to take this opportunity to talk about an honorable mention. The game that I almost picked as game of the year, Werewolf 20th Anniversary Edition.
I almost made my own another category for this one,
yeah,
solely because it's not technically a new game.
It's not, and that's that's why and that's unfortunately the decision I had to make was 13th Age. Gets it mostly because it is not a 20-year-old game. But as an honorable mention, the Werewolf 20th Anniversary Edition is a fantastic product. It is bringing back a game that I love in a big way. It includes all these updates, and it includes a bunch of stuff that was actually supplements back in the day, and kind of puts it all into one big book. And I really just cannot wait to get back into the spiritual world of the Guru and their war against the worm. And Werewolf the Apocalypse 20th Anniversary Edition is my honorable mention. I wish I could have put it higher. But unfortunately, just due to a number of factors, I couldn't. So just so you know, my pick for runner-up, 13th Age, honorable mention, Werewolf the Apocalypse 20th Anniversary Edition. We've talked about the runner-ups. We've talked about the honorable mention. It's time to announce our pick for Game of the Year.
And this is one, again, I had to fight Ross on.
Yeah, you had to fight me. Ultimately, he won.
I made the list and said, okay, Game of the Year, this. He says, but I worked on that, and I said, can you name any other game that deserves the honor more? He came up blank. So we went with my pick, and Ross did not disagree with me, even though he technically couldn't vote on it because he does have a credit on it. But, of course, our Game of the Year, Star Wars Edge of the Empire. And like I said, we've already talked about this game, but there are...
Well, we talked about it mechanically. We talked about it from a system point of view.
And I talked about some of the other stuff involved with it. It is just such a gorgeous game.
Well, the production values are crazy good. I agree with you. One of the things about working at Fantasy Flight Games is they have a top-notch art department. And working with those guys, I mean, you talked about how good Accursed looks, right?
Yes.
Everything I learned about how to make Accursed look as good as it does, I learned from working with the art department at Fantasy Flight Games, working with the graphic design department at Fantasy Flight Games, because those guys are one of the best in the industry, what they do.
And you might know this a little bit better than I do, but is there any art in Star Wars Edge of the Empire that is not original to the book?
I couldn't tell you if there is.
I did not recognize a single piece of art in the entire book.
It's likely that that it is all original. I mean, I can't say for 100% certainty that it isn't, but
if it isn't, the majority of the art is brand new.
Well, again, I mean, this comes back to Fantasy Flight's approach. Is they have when I was part of their role-playing game department, we worked with the art department, and we figured out a process of how to do art descriptions and how to work with artists. And basically all of the producers, all of the RPG guys are trained in art direction techniques that they then use when they're working with the art director, right? So it's like the art director has a whole team of guys helping them out as well, right? It's a big collaboration between them. And there is just some brilliant artists in that stable, some of whom I tapped to work on Accursed. So yeah, there's no doubt that part of the reason why the game looks so good is due to the way that they put together books at Fantasy Flight. But it's not just... And
even though it is original art, it is completely evocative of Star Wars. You cannot look at a single piece of art in that entire book and think it is not from Star Wars. Even if it's not a character that you may have seen before, you look at that, it's Star Wars.
Well, I mean, let's be clear. It's not Game of the Year just because it looks so pretty.
Yes.
But it does look really pretty. Now, I think one reason why, I didn't have an answer for you is on what else would be Game of the Year. Edge of the Empire took a very brave stance. It took a very courageous approach to making Star Wars because It's the first Star Wars game, first Star Wars role playing game, right? That there are no Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
It is all about the smugglers, all about the bounty hunters, all about the guys who live on the fringes of society, Imperial society, because this takes place in the Rebellion era.
Yes.
That to me was something that was bold. I considered that very bold. So part of the reason why I just kind of said, yeah, okay, Edge of the Empire. I will back that up, even though I didn't pick it, because I think they did take a bold stance on what they did, and then the system is innovative and it's very cool and it feels Star Warsy, and then the production values. I mean, it's a complete package. Edge of the Empire. I'm proud to have worked on it. I'm very very pleased that people are responding, very positively to it. But I think the credit, the majority of the credit on this game does not belong to me. It belongs to Jay Little and Dan Clark and Andy Fisher and all those guys we mentioned before, Sam Stewart, Tim Huckleberry, John Dunn, Jason Marker. There were a lot of people involved in this project, and Sean Fannin, Shane Hensley, to say their names again. So all of those people that put together Edge of the Empire, they deserve the kudos. And I say thank you to you, Darryl, for picking it for me, because I could not pick it.
Like I said, I sat there and, is there another game that can top it? There is not. There's another product that can top it.
You said you've played it.
Yes. Once I got the system, once I got how the dice worked, once I got how the character sheets worked, it was not in the way anymore. I was not. So what do? I played so many games where it's the first thing I do is look down at my character sheet. I was not doing that in this game. I was playing the character. It's like, of course, he pulls out his blaster. So the mechanics just bled into the background, so it was all story.
Well, I think that's the thing that people are going to take away from this Game of the Year pick, is the innovations in the way that the dice work with the story. I think that's going to be a milestone. I think people are going to look back, 5-10 years from now. They're going to talk about the gaming industry, and they're going to talk about things like when dice pools first started, and when diceless first started, and when these storytelling dice. There's going to be, I think, a milestone in the history of RPG game design. This is probably one of them. From my understanding of working with Jay on it, the goal is really to find a way to use the results on the dice to give the GM and the players more things to riff off of when they're describing the action and describing what their character does and what that means for that character. And that's where I think the innovation comes in, is it gives you more as a player, as a role player, it gives you more tools to use to make that scene more vibrant. Mm-hmm. That's really, I think, all I can say about it. I'm going to kind of stop talking about it now.
And that's exactly how I felt playing it. Like I said, the dice did not get in the way of the storytelling. It was all about the story, and the dice just helped. Yeah, there's a reason why I kind of fought for this to be Game of the Year, because it's just that good.
And I'm glad I feel like we had a good set of games and a good set of awards, and I wish that we had some kind of physical thing, like a plaque or something, but we don't.
I'm working on something.
Well,
that we'll be able to get to the winners soon.
Maybe a certificate, who knows? But the key thing is, I think it was really good for. I enjoyed it. Kind of putting together a list of games that deserve recognition. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope our listeners enjoyed it. And I want to encourage you, listeners, if you have some feedback on the idea of the awards show, or the way that the awards work, or the categories, if you have some picks that you think we missed, please don't hesitate to let us know, because we're really interested to find out what you guys think about 2013 in gaming. And we hope that you will all be with us next year when we talk about the Gamers Tavern Awards for 2014.
Yep, and if you want to leave your feedback, you can find us at facebook.com/gamerstavern for our Facebook page. And, of course, there is always our homepage at gamerstavern.org, where you can find the show notes with the links to all of the games we've been talking about, plus all the little side things we've been mentioning, as well as ways to buy all those games, and a comment section where you can leave your feedback as well.
We appreciate you guys being part of the show for Gamers Tavern, and we're really looking forward to all the great stuff we have coming up this year in 2014.
Have you been looking for a dark fantasy RPG setting? Are you interested in seeing a new take on the action horror genre? Then you should check out Accursed. Accursed is a setting for the Savage Worlds RPG created by me, Ross Watson, and my good friends Jason Marker and John Dunn. It is a world where the heroes are monsters who fight for redemption against the witches who have conquered their land. To find out more about Accursed, search for Accursed on drivethrurpg.com. Accursed is now on sale there and in many other fine retailers for gaming PDFs. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy Accursed.